Welcome in, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you again, as always, for tuning in to the Dynasty Force podcast. We are live with you here. This is Thursday, March 18th. As mentioned previously, we would be starting today instead of Wednesday, March 17th, like normal, mainly because of free agency. And there has been some things that have happened since yesterday. So, for the sake of our show, I think it's a good idea that we held off a little bit. With me, as always, the mind behind all of the daily fantasy knowledge in the industry, Billy Brisbane himself. How's it going, Billy?
What's good, Robbie? Just trying to see if I can place a bet before these NCAA games start, man. I feel like New Jersey's been just a fucking landmine. Every fucking sports book's been giving out money. On FanDuel tonight, we have the spread the love going on. Plus 130 for Michigan State. You
I
talk
saw
about
that.
free money, man. That you can't get any more free than that. And then Brigada's actually giving out free money, $50 free NCAA bet, and then 100% match deposit up to $500. And then we got some other books out there. It's just a great time to live in New Jersey right now when the NCAA tournament starts tonight, man. You got any bets going out there, Robbie, tonight?
I I do not at the moment, but I may have to tune in more
You guys don't know how lucky you are.
as we go along. Speaking
Rob,
of,
it's literally a free $95, bro. Like no speculations, no speculations to it at all. You literally put down $50, the max bet on Michigan State plus 130, and you deposit the money at the end of the night, and you got a free $95. I don't
Hey,
see,
unless Michigan State somehow loses by 130.
dude, no way a team in the NCAA tournament, more or less a Tom Izzo team in the NCAA tournament, is going to lose more by 130 points. That's ridiculous. And I would probably go up even before that, before game time.
that is crazy. No, see, I'm pulling up the sports book right now because I have no choice.
It's
Say,
on.
you guys don't know how
FanDuel.
lucky you are.
Only FanDuel. I think I do still have FanDuel, so that works.
You guys live
If
in
you
betting
don't,
states.
tonight's the night to sign up.
Yeah, I could. Another thing I've done before, like the Super Bowl when they had that.
Yeah, that was a good
Yeah,
one.
that.
Uh-oh, looks like we lost Rob for a second.
Yeah, we lost Rob for a second.
Hey, well, Bill, this is what I was trying to say. You guys don't know how lucky you are because I live in Kansas. There's no sports betting going on here. It's illegal. It's not fun. Do you know how lucky you guys are? But
You
going
can
back
do online sports betting like Borgata,
or Bovada.
and my bookie and stuff like that. I don't think they're like state, like go
Yeah.
state by state. Like I think it's just online sports betting in general because I know a lot of people from California and stuff.
Okay, quick question about the tournament before we move on to football news. I've not watched any college basketball this year, and usually I am a lot more involved than I am this year. I picked my Final Four as Zaga, Texas, Oklahoma State, and like remember the other team, but I don't really know. And I feel like this season is a lot more of a crapshoot than all the other years. Like I really don't know who's gonna win it. Who do you got winning it, Billy?
I got Gonzaga winning it, but if I felt like there was a dark horse to make the Final Four, I would say a dark horse team to make the Final Four could be Oklahoma State. Seems kind of cliche
cool.
to say, but Cunningham is probably more than likely. I would say 95%, barring an injury during the NCAA tournament, more than likely going to be the number one overall pick in that NBA draft. So I'm going to ride him out, Oklahoma State. I actually have a sports bet if you want to tail it. You can follow me over on the Action Sports Network thing and tail my bets because I'm going to be betting a shitload of college basketball. Didn't even do any brackets this year. I'm just looking to live bet college basketball games.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Glad to have you back, Rob. Looks like we lost you for a second.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm focused on what's important over here, which is getting money. So, Trey, I didn't officially introduce you. How is it going over there in Kansas, where you can't really take advantage of these sweet offers?
Yeah, that's what I was telling Billy. What is like, you guys don't know how lucky you are. I can't do no betting. But I guess like Billy said, I could do Bovada or whatever. But I'd rather do like through FanDuel or something that I could for sure trust. But hopefully Kansas will get their head out of their ass and we'll do something here soon. But we'll see.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. What's that?
I'm just excited to talk about some free agents. I mean,
Yeah,
my
man.
Raiders got affected by Kenyon Drake. As a fan, I'm kind of happy about it because we used Devonta Booker a lot last year. So
Yeah,
if he could be a good
rather
backup
have
to
Drake
Jacobs,
than him, but
I was actually
I'd be
talking
pretty
to
happy
a
about it.
Raider fan about this. I just don't get, like, all right, why spend money for a position that doesn't have anything to do with the football at all? It's just like Kenyon Drake, good running back. Yeah, you can probably catch some passes for you, but it's just like you can spend that money on a receiver to probably get something.
I'd much rather have Juju or Kenny G.
Yeah,
than,
John Brown's
sign Kenyon
cool and all
Drake.
that, but we know how the John Brown story goes. He's bound just to get hurt.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
plenty. We got so much news to talk about on this show. We're not going to dive into every single piece of news, but we will mention every single piece of news that has happened so far. And obviously, the more important things we will dive into. So that's literally our whole show because we got so much to get into over this past week. NFL free agency began. And man, I don't know. How has this free agency been for you guys so far? For Trey, let me start with you because, I don't know. It's been a weird one.
I'll talk first about my favorite team, which is the Raiders, man. We've completely dismantled our whole offensive line. Our defense has gotten pretty good with Ngakoue coming there, and we signed one of the 49ers guy. Solomon Thomas.
Solomon Thomas,
him.
yeah.
We're improving our defense, which needed improved. Our offense took a massive step back, in my opinion. I'm glad we didn't re-sign Nelson Aguilar. I'm glad the Pats overpaid for him and we got a cheap deal with John Brown, like Bill was saying. I was kind of hoping we were going to move on from Derek Carr, maybe get into the Wilson sweepstakes, but that didn't really happen. But free agency as a whole, it's been kind of interesting to see the Patriots go from saver to spender. I didn't quite see that coming. It was interesting to see them sign Jonnu and Hunter Henry. Definitely did not see that coming.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's been kind of slow. Like everyone else, I went for the wide receivers to sign. Trubisky with the Bills was pretty interesting to see. But there's been a lot of good moves going around the league. I think Dalton going to the Bears. Him
That's a funny
him versus Foles is going to be pretty interesting. I think that really affects Allen Robinson. But
Dalton has been guaranteed the starting job.
I saw that. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so, Bill, how about you? My friend Stefan, who's been on the podcast, me and him have been texting over this past 4 days that free agency has been going on, and basically we've sent each other memes here and there, mainly the Squidward meme where he's looking out the window at SpongeBob and Patrick playing. Yeah, Squidward is me as a Falcons fan and also Billy as an Eagles fan. We're just watching everything in free agency. Nothing really going on home. So Bill, any other input?
Yeah, dude, I was gonna say, man, this free agency felt a lot quieter than others. I feel like all the big name wide receivers that we really wanted to see go somewhere else, they all ended up re-signing. The only ones that really left out in the market that have some appeal for fantasy is Kenny G, and then the rest of the guys are kind of old. To be honest with you, we'll talk about this a little bit in depth in a little bit, but one free agency signing that I really like for fantasy that I was shocked that fantasy community was kind of like downplaying was Ryan Fitzpatrick to the Washington football team. I really like that for their fantasy team. When has Ryan Fitzpatrick ever gone to a team and has not been fantasy relevant? You know what I'm saying? I'd way rather have Ronnie Tannehill throw the ball down the field with a rookie quarterback behind him in the Whelms rather than fucking Alex Smith and fucking the Heineken kid or whatever.
What we got last year.
Yeah, like, I mean, how do you not want Fitzmagic on the Redskins, man? I mean, I'm calling them the Redskins because I can't say Washington football team.
The football team.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, man. Ryan Fitzpatrick's gonna have some for those them scary Terry shares, man. That's a good.
Curtis Samuel too now.
Yeah.
Hey,
as I mentioned,
real quick, sorry, Rob. What do you think the Eagles are gonna do with Ertz?
I have no idea. I think he's gonna go to what was the team that I was seeing?
I could see him going to the Jags, especially since the Jags just traded Josh Oliver. I mean, they don't got anyone there because Tyler Eifert's also released.
It was
I could see maybe the Bengals also, hopefully.
There's one team that we actually sent a trade offer to. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I don't want to say the Colts, but it was one of those teams. It was the Bills, actually. I think we sent a trade offer to the Bills for Zach Ertz.
I did see the Bills were trying to get Gronk, so I'm not surprised that they're trying to upgrade their tight end position.
I do actually have some big breaking news, which is great to have on the podcast.
What is
the Lions just signed Brashad Perriman. Bill, the Brashad Perriman truther, how you feeling, buddy?
I guess he's replacing Marvin Jones. I mean, I got Brashad Perriman on way too many teams.
Yeah.
That kind of upsets me. I was hoping Josh Reynolds was going to sign there. I don't know where he's going to sign now.
Yeah.
Especially since I just got Tyrell Williams, too.
There is plenty of news to talk about. We are half discussing all of them, but let's really start breaking it down here. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about what's fantasy relevant here for most people. So let's start with New Orleans. New Orleans re-signed Taysom Hill to a 4-year, $140 million extension. It's not actually a 4-year, $140 million extension because all of his years are voidable, which is a new term, and I honestly don't understand it very much, but basically they could just take all his money away. And I mean, okay, he did it to bring the cap down this year. It's basically saying he's going to be in New Orleans again. And then Jameis Winston also re-signed with New Orleans. He took a 1-year, $5 million deal. He can earn a lot more with incentive.
Looks like we lost Rob again. But I assume he was just going to be breaking down the Saints. And, I mean,
Hello, am I back? Oh,
yeah.
My mistake. I'm sorry. Okay, so Jameis signed on a 1-year, $5 million deal. He can earn up to $12 million with incentives, but because he did not play last year, his incentives don't count against the cap currently. So basically, we're going to have a competition in New Orleans this upcoming season between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. I just want to say, though, Jameis Winston did not start when Drew Brees went out this past season. Taysom Hill did. So I feel as though that's just what's bound to happen. Do either of you have different opinions on that?
Oh, yeah.
It just makes no fucking sense. Like, how are you in camp and just think like, man, we got to just go with Taysom Hill out there, man. He's just tearing it up, man, running right through the middle. I get it for their scheme. It kind of made more sense because you have to kind of build a different system around Jameis Winston, would kind of be more of like an air raid type of offense where you kind of allow him to throw the ball down the field a little bit more. But, man, if Winston doesn't beat out Taysom Hill for this job, man, I would be highly fucking shocked. And I hope for my fantasy shares, I feel like, man, if you get Jameis Winston behind center for the Saints, whoo, buddy, light up them Saints, man. Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith. Shit, you might even get a Marquez Callaway game.
You might. Bill, what were you going to say?
I mean,
Or Trey, I'm sorry.
I was going to agree with Bill. I mean, the fact of the matter is kind of like what he was saying. If Jameis does not beat out Taysom, that's a really big mark against Jameis. What I would expect this season would be Jameis being the quarterback, and if Taysom has packages, I could see him maybe being on the goal line because maybe they don't trust Jameis at the goal line with all of his interceptions. And plus, I mean, it's obvious that Taysom's a lot more athletic than Jameis, so they could do a lot more read options and stuff like that with Taysom Hill. But I mean, I think if Jameis is the full-time starter, and even if he does go in and out with Taysom Hill, I could see Jameis being a high-end QB2 in Superflex leagues, and I'd be happy because you could definitely get him at a discount if you did startups last year or even this year. I mean, he's going pretty late, so if he starts, you're going to be pretty happy with the value that he brings back to you.
Definitely. I do have a Dynasty league where I am the reigning champ. I own, or manage, I should say, both Hill and Winston. So I honestly don't care what happens. But I have a ton of Taysom Hill shares, so I guess I should be on the Taysom Hill side here. So honestly, though, I mean, best of luck to both of them, and they're going to compete. I think Jameis is the better quarterback, but I think for the team, you know, like Jameis has better arm talent, but for the team and how New Orleans can win more games, I think the best way for them to win games would be starting Taysom Hill. So we'll see what happens.
How do you Alvin Kamara splits with Taysom Hill under center is just absolutely horrible.
But they won games, Bill.
They won games, but they won games against shitty teams, bro. They played like the Denver fucking Broncos with a fifth-string wide receiver as
that did happen.
And they played your Falcons twice during that time. Like, they did not
that also
play
happened.
Some good teams, dude.
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, there's ways to win with a game manager. It's also been shown, you know, it's hard to win with a quarterback who turns the ball over as much as Jameis Winston does. So, I mean, it's up to Jameis. Like, if
You're not a believer in the
if Jameis can turn around on the turnovers, he can turn them down. Just bring it down a little bit. If he can do it, then we're cool. And it's going to be Jameis's job. But, I mean, can't see. Who knows? He has, like, the Ryan Fitzpatrick mindset. Like, there was literally a video of Ryan Fitzpatrick this year coaching up to it, and he was like, yeah, sometimes you just got to chuck it. You know? Like, no, that's not the best way to go all the time. Speaking of Ryan Fitzpatrick, as we mentioned earlier, Ryan Fitzpatrick signed with the Washington football team. This is big for fantasy. I think it increases the value of Terry McLaurin, even though, as also mentioned, Curtis Samuel signed with Terry McLaurin. No, Curtis Samuel signed with the Washington football team. But yes, Terry McLaurin has a legitimate quarterback who has very recently supplied fantasy value to offensive weapons. And he's a really good player, so I think this is really good for him. What are your thoughts? Let me shoot it to Bill on Ryan Fitzpatrick in Dynasty.
If you have Ryan Fitzpatrick in Dynasty, I would just hold him at this point. I mean, like, if you drafted him late last year and you used him as like a third-string quarterback, I mean, I feel like if anything, this helps his value than suppresses his value. I know the Miami Dolphins are probably going to be a better overall football team, but there's actually some things to like about the Washington football team. They have a good defensive line. They have pretty good offensive pieces like Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, stuff like that. So, yeah, I like it, man. I mean, if you're out there, and I think one thing that you should do is wait for draft night. We always talk about this. Wait till draft night where you're redrafting in the rookie draft so you see how the quarterbacks go off the board. And if it goes a certain way, you should have a nice little list of 5 or 6 veteran QBs that you can trade for on certain teams. And I would definitely have Ryan Fitzpatrick on one of those teams.
Yeah, I did see news earlier that Ryan Fitzpatrick was not guaranteed the starting job, But I mean, that could go either way. It depends on who they draft, or like they could luck into a certain position where they get a quarterback and he looks really good, and it turns into a situation like Tua where they just want to put the rookie in. But I'm sorry, Trey, I keep doing that. Trey.
Dude, sometimes I wish I was Bill. I'm not gonna lie.
Don't we all? Bill looking like what athletic director for a high school over there in the corner with the Under Armour fleece, going through his papers and looking at his phone and stuff. Trey,
Yeah, trying to get the NCAA bets in.
I feel that though, because I'm also.
But the games are on now.
Yeah. Trey, question for you is not Dynasty. I know you're more Dynasty focused, but let's talk potentially redraft. What are your thoughts on Ryan Fitzpatrick? I mean, think of the division too: Philly, New York, and Dallas. Dallas, and I don't know about Philly at the moment. They need to add some pieces on defense, and Dallas, I feel like, is bound to have a really bad defense again. So
I about to say that's what I was gonna use as my argument for Ryan Fitzpatrick is the easy schedule. I mean, more than half of the games that you're gonna play in fantasy are against your division. That's why I usually try to stay away from like the NFC West people. And if I could, get in a division where like the NFC East, where all the defenses are very fantasy friendly, then it's pretty easy to make an impact. And I think that's what Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to do. I mean, kind of like what Rob said, he's not guaranteed the starting job. There's Taylor Heineke there. He looked good in the playoffs against the Bucks last year, and they paid him I think $5 or $6 million in guarantees. So I mean, they obviously think pretty highly of him as well. And we still don't know if they're going to be drafting a quarterback, but I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is at least going to be starting some games next year. But for Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, I think it all makes their shares a little bit better. I think Curtis Samuel going to the football team is pretty nice. I'm not quite sure if it hurts or helps Terry McLaurin, just because it is nice to have someone opposite of it.
Yeah.
But it is never good to have somebody taking away the targets, because he was really getting target hogged there. But I think it's going to be good for both him and Antonio Gibson to have somebody else dynamic in their offense.
I think it's also somewhat good for Logan Thomas. Like this specific, I mean, we are not technically on the Curtis Samuel point yet, but we can kind of be. Logan Thomas will be kind of the short threat there. Like Terry McLaurin is the do-it-all guy who is really also good deep. Curtis Samuel has kind of been known for going deep recently, though he is a gadget player. So I think Logan Thomas, too, can benefit from the short targets that will be there for him from Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, yeah, real quick, Curtis Samuel, we've mentioned him throughout. He's signed with Washington on a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. That's a good deal for Washington. He and Terry McLaurin have been really good friends since college too, so it's kind of like a Odell and Jarvis Landry situation where they're reuniting and they have a chip on their shoulder because they're trying to do really well together, not just on their own, but together. And Curtis Samuel, this is great because he, as we mentioned with Ryan Fitzpatrick's signing there, he has a legitimate quarterback who has helped sustain multiple fantasy wide receivers, that are great for fantasy. And he's getting a real opportunity because beyond Terry McLaurin in Washington, I mentioned Logan Thomas, but he's really not a established weapon, and they really have no one else. So Curtis Samuel is going to get an opportunity here, Curtis Samuel is one of the biggest winners in free agency, or I should say Curtis Samuel fantasy managers, because Curtis Samuel, he's getting an opportunity. I don't know. It's a good contract. He could have earned more money, as we've seen other guys get paid more than him, like Nelson Aguilar, for example. But
how long is the deal?
It's 3 years, and one of the things I wanted to mention there, Curtis Samuel is only 25, so he'll be 28 when he hits the market again, and the salary cap by then is bound to be a lot bigger. And if he does really well in this opportunity in Washington, he can really earn a paycheck then. So, yeah, love to see it for Curtis Samuel. Not always the case in free agency when you see deals happen and they help everyone involved, but here we are. Let's talk about some other quarterbacks. I'm going to run through these ones pretty quickly. Cam Newton resigns with New England on a one-year deal, $5.1 million. He could earn a lot more with incentives. I think this is just more of the same in New England. They could trade up for a quarterback in the draft, remains to be seen, but we'll talk more about that later on in the process, because I don't believe that New England is done with their quarterback room. Andy Dalton signs with Chicago on a one-year deal. I actually think if anyone benefits from this, it's Allen Robinson, because Andy Dalton has supported one wide receiver in the past.
Bro,
And I feel like he could do it again.
This is so bad. Bro.
It's so, bro.
They went from going from trade rumors about trading for Russell Wilson to fucking Andy Dalton strolling in here on a one-year contract, Rob. No,
dude, I couldn't imagine being a Bears fan, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I gotten out of all my Allen Robinson shares I possibly could have, because for a day or two I was like, oh shit, A-Rob's about to go to the Seahawks or something like that, or the other way around, Wilson coming to Chicago. But man, if you got out of your Allen Robinson shares now, man, you're a happy fucking owner, man.
I don't know though. Like I believe Andy Dalton is not a good quarterback, and the Chicago Bears are not going to be a good team. But I also have seen, and even so last year when Andy Dalton got into the groove of things for Dallas, Andy Dalton could support one wide receiver. It tended to switch up pretty often. Like, you didn't know who it was going to be between Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. But in this situation in Chicago, there's no one but Allen Robinson to throw the ball to. So yeah, I feel like,
I don't know, man.
He could be good. I
feel like A-Rob's going to be on my bust list this year, because the draft capital that you're going to spend on A-Rob, it's like, yeah, if A-Rob, everything goes well for him, he'll hit the floor of what we have seen him historically do. But I don't think we're getting an A-Rob.
You're definitely not getting.
We're going to look back at this season and be like, Allen Robinson, man.
Yeah, no.
Let me tell you about that 2021 season. Like, nobody's doing that after this year. And if you're not doing that, and he's 28 years old, next year he's 29, get out.
Listen.
So you should. Okay, so you're saying sell on Allen Robinson right now?
I'm saying sell on Allen Robinson, man.
That's interesting.
It's just not. It's just a situation where I feel like once we see it play, Allen Robinson's going to be that guy like he was last year, where you look at the stats and be like, yeah, Allen Robinson had a pretty good year, but it just didn't feel the warm and fuzzies having him in your lineup and stuff like that. I feel like it's just going to be a type of year where he's not going to do good in the good matchups, and he's going to do good in the bad matchups, and it's just going to be hard to predict Allen Robinson. And I just feel like there's just other receivers that just have a higher ceiling with the better quarterback situation. Like,
receivers do have depth. You know,
would you rather have Tyler Lockett or Allen Robinson? Ask me that question now. You asked me that question.
I'd probably take Robinson just because
it's a lot closer than what it was.
It is, yeah. I'll admit that.
I'd say if you do, like, especially in Dynasty, T. Higgins or Allen Robinson right now, I feel like it'd be a lot closer today than it was last week for sure.
Right. Yeah. I know what you mean. Do you have any opinions, Trey, on the Allen Robinson impact from Andy Dalton? He's really the only guy who's getting any impact in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Rob, there's not really anyone else there. It'll be interesting to see if they draft somebody or bring somebody in. Like Cole Kmet could take a step. Jimmy Graham's still there. Surprisingly, I thought they might cut him, but he's still there. Other than that, there's not really anyone. They might have to go run on David Montgomery. Maybe it's not a sell on David Montgomery. Maybe it's they're going to lean on him more in 2021, so maybe go out and buy him. But who knows?
Yeah. let me finish out the quarterbacks here real quick. Tyrod Taylor signs with Houston on a 1-year deal, kind of to be their backup. Maybe the starter if Watson is traded, who knows. Jacoby Brissett signs with Miami on a 1-year deal, so he's going to be their backup. Mitch Trubisky, as Trey mentioned, signs with Buffalo on a 1-year deal to be Josh Allen's backup. And that is all the quarterback news we have so far. Really, the only other one that we don't have to this point is Alex Smith. So, till
don't
Alex
disrespect
Smith
Joe
sign,
Flacco like that.
Yeah,
I
where's
actually
Flacco
did see.
signing out at? Isn't he?
I did
he
see
make a
some
tryout with the 49ers?
Yeah, that's the news I saw, which would be interesting because Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen.
Yeah, the living legend himself, Josh Rosen. Let's get into running back. And Trey, I know you got to go, but I'm very glad we can talk about this news while you're here. Aaron Jones re-signed with the Green Bay Packers on a 4-year, $48 million deal.
Would have rather him be franchised.
Yes, I completely agree. I only have, I believe, one AJ Dillon share, but man, it was glorious to have that share. It was a recent startup too. It was glorious to have that for about the past 2 weeks. Man, what?
Hey,
AJ Dillon is now Jamal Williams, and I believe that, but. What I mean, like, you're really just think about it from the Packers' perspective. You spent a 1st-round pick on Jordan Love, who you're not gonna play at quarterback for at least this upcoming year too. So that would be 2 years, maybe even 3 or beyond. And you spent a 2nd-round pick on a running back who is just gonna play second fiddle for 2 years and beyond as well. So what are the Packers doing? It's a big question to me.
Yeah, this was the offseason move that really punched me in the gut more than any other offseason move because it impacted me in 2 ways. Like you said, I have a lot of Aaron Jones shares. I thought he was going to be moving on to a good fantasy situation, so I've been buying him because people were selling low on him. And I was also buying A.J. Dillon because a lot of people didn't, at the beginning of the offseason, a lot of people didn't know that Aaron Jones was a free agent, so they were selling A.J. Dillon pretty low. And so I have a lot of A.J. Dillon. So I figured that A.J. Dillon was going to be the starter. Aaron Jones was going to go away. Little did I know that I got my victory dance for one day whenever I thought that, they didn't franchise him. He's set free. Awesome. He's not going to be a Packer. Yay, that's awesome. And then the next day he resigns before free agency.
Yep.
And was it a 4-year deal, wasn't it?
Yeah. 4 years, $48 million.
I mean, he's stuck there. I mean, it's a good fantasy spot. I mean, I'm not mad about it because he's still going to be a low-end RB1 or a mid-tier RB1 in my opinion. But, I mean, it really hurt my A.J. Dillon shares. But I'm going to have to sign off, guys. I got to go back to work, unfortunately.
That's fine. Catch Trey on Twitter at FFSuperFlexGuru, and, you could speak with him whenever you want about these free agent signings. I'm sure he has lots of love to share on the Green Bay Packers for their A.J. Dillon treatment. We'll catch you later, Trey.
Yeah, say have a good rest of your night, Billy. Good luck on the betting, and Rob, I guess congratulations on your $50 free.
Yeah, I already got there, so we're working.
All right, see you guys.
Catch ya. All right, so Bill, I mean, do you want to add anything there for Green Bay? Aaron Jones resigning?
This one, like Trey said, didn't really make too much sense, but it makes sense. The only thing is, I would say for Aaron Jones, I feel like obviously his redraft ADP price tag is a lot more appealing and payable. Like, I would arguably say you could fuck around and spend a 2nd or 3rd round pick on Aaron Jones in a redraft league, and it'll probably return to value. It's just in dynasty leagues. What do? Do you sell him halfway through the season after a couple up games or something like that? Because I feel like we say that A.J. Dillon's taking the Jamal Williams role, but I think that with the draft capital that they spent on A.J. Dillon, they have no other choice besides to split this carries 50-50 like a year from now. They're going to have to give him run.
Draft capital. Okay, but I understand but at the same time, draft capital, I wouldn't use that too much of an argument because the actual money invested, like $12 million annually for Aaron Jones versus it's probably around somewhere under $2 million annually for A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, but you don't think they're gonna like eventually give him run? Like they got to see what he has.
They have to, and I think they did towards the end of last season. But man, I just don't know.
Count, man, because when Aaron Jones is out, they still had Jamal Williams, and they're trying to get the most out of Jamal Williams before the contract was up. But my fault, I didn't want to.
No, you're good. I just really don't know what to think.
Yeah, it's a weird conundrum because I feel like I said redraft, you don't really care. This is kind of a good thing for redraft leagues, but I mean, since we're a Dynasty show, man, I feel bad for the people that have A.J. Dillon in Dynasty because they definitely got a trade-off that they wish they would have accepted.
Yeah, especially, after Jones wasn't franchise tagged, that one really hurt. And then, yeah, man, Aaron Jones, like you mentioned, when to sell. I wouldn't say he's up right now because a lot of people aren't, in love with the idea of Aaron Jones, but he is someone that you should not forget about for this upcoming season. Next, let's move on to the next biggest piece at running back, which surprisingly is not that big. Kenyon Drake. We mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show too, specifically with Trey because he is a Raiders fan, but Kenyon Drake signed with the Las Vegas Raiders on a 2-year, $11 million deal. So, I mean, it's kind of a value, $5.5 million for Kenyon Drake. And Trey mentioned that they used Devontae Booker a lot last season, so Drake is an upgrade from that. But man, this hurts for Josh Jacobs owners, Bill.
I don't know, man, because there's rumors that the Raiders were looking at spending an early draft pick on a running back, and I'd much rather have dusty-ass Kenyon Drake back there than a rookie running back.
He's not dusty.
He's dusty from the aspect of Kenyon Drake can't be more than a serviceable bell cow, meaning he'll sub in for a game where Josh Jacobs is hurt or something like that, and he'll look real good, and he'll give you a lot better production than what Jalen Richard and Devontae Booker were giving you. But from the aspect of, like, I'd rather have seen Kenyon Drake be a pass catcher for just a different team than I feel like the Raiders. Yeah. The Raiders aren't really, like, I feel bad for a little bit because, like, in a weird way, if you're a Josh Jacobs owner, you have no other choice besides hold right now. Because if you sell him, you're not going to get the value that you're going to get back for him. But if you go throughout this whole entire season, one of the big things to, like, really be a top 5 running back in fantasy football nowadays is the receiving. And if you're not signing Kenyon Drake to be a receiving back, then what are you really doing with him?
Exactly.
But we've seen them do that a couple of times before with some of their signings. So it's kind of a hard one to figure out. But I'd much rather have it be Kenyon Drake than a rookie running back. But maybe that rookie running back could have been in the 5th round. Who knows? But I don't know, man. It shows that they're not going to draft at that position. They're probably just going to draft offensive linemen.
Yeah, they should. They're one of, I mean, not to prelude it too much, but we have some winners and losers for the offensive line position so far because we don't want to completely ignore that because it does have a lot to do with fantasy football. And,
They're cutting out on me a little bit.
Off season in the offense draft for the offensive line. Man, I like you said, the ceiling is gone for Josh Jacobs. He's not going to be a top 5 back. I didn't see him as a top 5 back before, but I know people did. So for those people, man, I'm sorry. And
in a weird way, bro, I think he's a buy in Dynasty.
He kind of is,
like
though.
The owner is like a little bit cold feet on him. Let's say if you have like Josh Jacobs, more than likely you have another couple other running backs. He's probably like your RB2 premium, like meaning like you're probably running back heavy. And I feel like if I'm in a league, I would send out a trade offer just in case. You never know how much.
Yeah, you can buy him
might evaluate him
for cheap. Late first round pick right now for Josh Jacobs.
Like if I was the Ezekiel Elliott owner, I might package out a trade to like this Josh Jacobs owner and try to get a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, you never know. Might go through. Might as well take the chance.
Am I right though? Like if you're a Zeke owner or something like that, because like if you're a Zeke owner, like at least like if you have Josh Jacobs, it gives you a good position to win for now, but it also sets you up for the future because of his age. But like if you're a Ezekiel Elliott owner, like and you're not in championship contention, like he's a wasteland on your team.
Yeah, I agree. I think Zeke is still really good, but I don't know how much longer he's going to be good. And
better redraft player than Dynasty.
Exactly.
Like his Dynasty and redraft, like ranking for me would probably drop like 7 to like 6 spots.
Yeah, definitely makes a difference. Let's move on here from the Raiders. I mean, Kenyon Drake. I mean, we talked mostly. We should talk about Kenyon Drake because we've talked mostly about Josh Jacobs. Real quick, do you have any sort of confidence in Drake as a fantasy asset?
I mean, like, there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it as in like he's in a running back by committee, but like he'll be the 30%, the 40% guy. He'll never be the 60% guy. But in a weird way, I'm a Kenyon Drake owner, and I'm kind of like happy because I have Josh Jacobs on the same exact team. So I kind of like got myself into a handcuff situation because if there's a situation where Josh Jacobs got hurt, Kenyon Drake would absolutely smash the Raiders running back. And I feel like he'll just be like Alexander Madison now. Like he should be drafted in the same exact range as him.
Yeah. I feel.
Wouldn't you say he's a handcuff premium now?
I would say so. I think he has a little bit of value on his own, but not a ton. You know, like week in, week out, it's not going to be fantastic.
Yeah, but I think if you can get Kenyon Drake in like a startup pretty late, I think he's a really good out of the handcuffs. I would say he ranks at the higher tier of handcuffs.
Yeah, I would say so too. We can move on now. Really no other running backs that I'm super excited to talk about. Bill, let me know what stands out to you the most from this list. So Jamal Williams signed with the Detroit Lions on a 2-year, $7.5 million deal. Mark Ingram signed with the Texans on a 1-year deal. Jeff Wilson re-signed with San Francisco on a 1-year deal. Carlos Hyde to Jacksonville on a 2-year, $6 million deal. Marlon Mack re-signed with Indianapolis on a 1-year deal. Darrell Williams re-signed with Kansas City, who then cut Damian Williams, who opted out last year. And then Miami signed both Tevin Coleman and Malcolm Brown to 1-year deals. So what is there anything there that stuck out to you? Maybe not for the value of that player, but maybe more so for the value of someone else.
I would say the one that kind of appeals to me the most is probably Jeff Wilson getting re-signed by the 49ers. If you look at their backfield coming into this season, there's a
It's basically Jeff Williams and Raheem Mostert under contract, and that's it so far. Hasty. Yeah, Hasty as well. Yeah.
What is he undrafted? He was like an undrafted rookie free agent anyway, so it's not even a guarantee he's going to be back on the roster. But like, I feel like for like Jeff Wilson, like if you're in a startup draft, I always relate to the startup drafts because, like we always say, that's where you get the best value for these guys. If you're in a startup draft and you're on Sleeper, that's a name that you have to search on the bar. You know what I'm saying? It's not definitely a name that's going to pop up, and you can probably grab him way later. I think that basically what I'm saying is if you get Jeff Wilson on your team, he'll probably return value for you. It's a name that you should keep
because the value is so low.
Yeah, dude, I think he'll have some weeks next year, dude. He might fuck around and be the actual 49ers running back to own. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you talk to whoever owns the Jeff Wilson in your league, dude's not giving him up. Like,
Yeah,
you
no.
always
You'd be
slide
like,
that in
hey,
there.
how about that third for Jeff Wilson? They'd be
Yeah,
like,
you always slide that in there when you make a trade. You see like that one sleeper dude, and you're like, yo, slide that Jeff Wilson too at the end of that trade. They're like, oh no, blah 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 blah.
oh, he's
You know,
got upside, bro.
yeah, he's got upside, bro. Like, bro, Rashad Penny and Jeff Wilson's not deciding if you win this trade or not.
Yeah, man. I think what stuck out to me the most, number one, there was some. Jamal Williams. I mean, I guess Adrian Peterson's not coming. Well, actually, I think he signed a long-term deal with Detroit. Actually, let me make sure on that.
Nor do I really care though. DeAndre Swift's the only guy that I want.
Right. I was gonna say Jamal Williams can be like a successful spell for DeAndre Swift, but now it's Adrian Peterson is a free agent. But yeah, like I said, he'll be a successful spell for him as he was for Aaron Jones over the years. Excuse me. And DeAndre Swift kind of the guy now. And the other thing that stuck out to me was Miami going out and signing two low-end running backs in Tevin Coleman and Malcolm Brown, because I feel like
I think they're still going to draft somebody back there.
I don't think they have to. Like, it really depends how they feel about Myles Gaskin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's going to be a weird
ratchet.
I'm shocked you didn't bring up the one that kind of stood out to me, but it didn't stand out for like, oh, I like this guy going there. It kind of helped out another situation. Carlos Hyde teaming up with his old colleague.
That's another one.
Urban Meyer at Jacksonville. While I think people are going to read into that narrative, maybe get some Carlos Hyde shares, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like that really helped out the James Robinson shares, dude. There was a guy that we were talking about a couple weeks ago with your boy that won the listener league or whatever. James Robinson. And we're like, dude, James Robinson is either going to be like a screaming value from like this time right now, or he's going to drop so far off the fucking cliff you're not going to know what to do with him. But if you're a James Robinson owner, clap it up for yourself.
It is a victory.
The first wave. You made it through the first wave. Free agency is the first wave, the draft the second wave, because they have so many fucking picks.
Obviously James Robinson isn't going to do what he did last year, because James Robinson got, like, overall, he got more than 90% of the work in that backfield, and that just doesn't happen. That's really not going to happen again. Like, they were obviously going to bring in somebody. So I feel like Carlos Hyde, of all people, is that name where you're like, I'm fine with this. Like,
I'm fine with
that. Dub.
Yeah,
this is a dub.
Fuck Carlos Hyde. Let Carlos Hyde be out there and look dusty in practice.
Like, if they had signed Chris Carson, okay, I'd be kind of scared. And it'd be, completely different situation. So.
And then another thing to say is, even though Carlos Hyde might take some touches away from James Robinson, overall, I feel like even though James Robinson crushed in garbage time last year, I feel like overall he has a higher fantasy point per touch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, we always say Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not the best talent ever, but the fact that he has such a high ceiling for fantasy per touch is kind of like really a hard thing to say. I feel like with Trevor Lawrence back there, he'll have more. They'll just have better offensive game scripts.
They will. Yeah. Fullback news. The only one I really want to talk about is Kyle Juszczyk re-signing in San Francisco on a 5-year deal, because he's so important to that run game there. He's such a good run blocker, and he is a good utility fullback as well. He's clearly the best fullback in the game. He's really essential to that team, so that helps. But let's get into the big wide receiver news. We already talked about Curtis Samuel signing with Washington on a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. How about Will Fuller signing with the Miami Dolphins on a 1-year, $10 million deal? I mean, this to me says two things. Number one, they are not drafting a wide receiver with the 3rd overall pick. They'll either trade down and try and, address some pieces that they lost on defense, or they'll just go offensive line with that pick. Penei Sewell is one of the is a great offensive line talent, and he could be sitting there at number 3. But they could also, like I said, trade down. You could end up in a situation where the Carolina Panthers have a guy like Justin Fields on the board, and they really want to trade up to get ahead of Atlanta. So they could trade up to that 3rd pick, and then you fall back and you address some defensive needs. So,
can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, what's up?
Parker's still there or no?
Yes, he is.
He's still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of dampers everything for me then. I'm not really into Will Fuller.
The thing, I think for more than anything, I'm not like loving the value on Will Fuller or Devontae Parker or Mike Gesicki or really any of the weapons there. I think more than anything, though, this is a dub for Tua, because if you have Tua in Dynasty, like, this is a good sign, because if Tua fails next year,
that's on Tua, yeah.
It's 100% on Tua. Like,
yeah. Will Fuller makes everybody better.
Right, and it's like everyone always talks about the splits when Will Fuller's on the field and Will Fuller isn't on the field. The one thing I will say, Devontae Parker has a history with injuries. Will Fuller has an history with injuries. Preston Williams is their 3rd wide receiver at the moment, and he has a history of injuries. I mean, it could go wrong.
Yeah, but Will Fuller fucked around and had some top wide receiver 1 weeks last season with Deshaun Watson, and he's not getting that in Miami, dude. No matter he's not. Dude, he and Deshaun Watson, like I remember the one video that we did on Pub Sports Radio, the Thanksgiving Day video, and we were talking about the play is Will Fuller, Watson, Thanksgiving Day. We're going to smash the Texans. And I just think about, like, man, dude, Will Fuller isn't pulling out those 7 58s and no touchdowns and still popping out as a top 10 fantasy performer. Dude, I know Brandon Cooks is a lot better than Devontae Parker, but, man, Will Fuller was outplaying the shit out of him last year, dude. It was ridiculous. It's just sad to see my boy Will Fuller go to Miami, because I know this has nothing to do with the actual fantasy stats, but if we really get into the game theory and the narrative, man, you don't want to ever see a guy go to Miami, man. You know he's going to be in the clubs popping some bottles with some women.
I know what you're feeling.
Shit. I don't think Will Fuller gets better in Miami. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Too many distractions.
Am I right, though? Like, he does not get better in Miami.
That's a shame. It's a shame to think about. But I will say what should drive him here, it's a 1-year deal.
Yeah, it's a good
salary cap. The salary cap is going to go back up. So potentially take advantage, try to get better so that you can take advantage. Let's move on. Marvin Jones signs with Jacksonville on a 2-year, $14.5 million deal. Now, Bill, I know you the other week traded Marvin Jones for Keelan Cole with the hopes that Keelan Cole resigned in Jacksonville. Keelan Cole actually did sign with the New York Jets on a 1-year deal. How do you feel about that trade now?
Wish could take it back, but I mean, there's no givesy back season fantasy trades. But in reality, I feel like this hurts the Colin Johnson shares, if anything.
Yeah,
he was kind of like a trendy dynasty guy, that
like a low end guy who had some value if they didn't really do anything at the wide receiver position, because it would obviously be Chark and LaVisca, but then it would be Colin Johnson after that. And now,
yeah, I think the problem with this trade is it takes away red zone shares from DJ Chark, because DJ Chark, one of the fantasy appeals for him is the fact that Gardner used to target him so much in the end zone, and he used to have so much in the red zone shares. But now if you put in Marvin Jones, the one thing that he really does, he's just a possession receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you looked at, like...
He's a really good contested catch guy.
He's a good contested catch possession receiver. He isn't a guy that is going to be on there for every snap, but he's going to be on there for, like, the third and whatever, or the red zone plays or whatever. And I don't really feel like this affects Laviska at all. Laviska is going to be good whatever
Right.
because you can get rushing yards and get 2-3 fantasy points like that. But yeah, man, it kind of puts the damper for those Chark and Colin Johnson shares. Talking about Keelan Cole over there to the Jets. Hopefully, I think this is the writing on the wall that they're about to cut Crowder. Am I right?
I think
They
so.
basically
as well.
just signed Crowder's replacement as a slot receiver. So, I mean, overall, how I feel about the trade, hopefully we can get at least one season from Keelan Cole from the Jets because the slot is somewhat productive for the Jets.
Yeah. I think it also is a nice help to Trevor Lawrence because, as I said, Marvin Jones is a good contested catch guy. It should also help, like, as a mentor sort of situation for DJ Chark because DJ Chark is
helps the locker room. Because if you
he's
look
a good player.
at Marvin Jones's quotes before free agency, he said one of the things that he really wants to do is try to pursue a Super Bowl. So the fact that he's going to Jacksonville gives the incentive to everybody in the locker room that, like, we're not the Jacksonville Jaguars of old, we're the new Jaguars. Kind of how, like, the Browns did their philosophy with Baker Mayfield, and then they started signing big-name receivers and stuff like that, like Odell Beckham. Even though that didn't pan out, it was just, like, having other people from different environments that come from winning organizations. I know the Lions aren't a winning organization by any means, but Marvin Jones was definitely a staple in their locker room and their culture. So I feel like this definitely helps out the culture. Like I said earlier, man, Jacksonville Jaguars are just going to be in better positions to score points for fantasy.
And Marvin Jones actually lived out a full 5-year NFL contract with the Detroit Lions. I feel like that never happens.
Yeah.
So shout out Marvin Jones. Like I said, he's a good
player. He was
productive
for most of it too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
some people are really stoked on the Marvin Jones shit, though, man. Like, I saw that shit on Twitter, and people were like, "Oh, I'm getting me a Marvin Jones jersey, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Man, we're doing this again?"
I liked him a lot better last year
last year was the year, dude. Yeah. You knew that, like, Kenny Golladay was the guy, but, like, if you give me 5-7 rounds later, like, nowadays you can kind of just get Colin Johnson in the last round and just out there.
Might as well take a shot. Yeah. As far as other wide receiver news, I mean, it's all kind of from here. How about Corey Davis signing with the New York Jets on a 3-year, $37 million deal? Any interest there?
Corey Davis?
Yeah.
To the Jets?
Yep.
Basically the Rashad Perryman replacement. I hope that it doesn't damper the Mims upside. Because one of the things that we talked about Mims last year was regardless of how many catches you think Crowder's about to get, like, there has to be a second or third in the team.
Yeah.
And hopefully this team just gets an offensive upgrade in general. I don't think Sam Darnold's bad, but I just don't think he fits for the Jets.
I feel. I don't know. I've read a lot. I said, like, I on this, I said I personally had no idea what to think about it. And someone replied to me basically saying Corey Davis and Denzel Mims are basically the same receiver, which I can kind of see. So them working together, interesting. If Cole or Crowder or whoever is in the middle. And there was rumors earlier about New York hosting Juju Smith-Schuster, though there was another report saying don't be surprised if they don't sign him. So who knows where that's at.
Can we talk about the biggest winner from that signing?
For what signing?
Corey Davis to the Jets.
Sure.
Anthony Ferkser, tight end of the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, he did resign, by the way.
Into the tea leaves, dude. Adam Humphries has left. Corey Davis has left. Jonnu Smith has left also as well. So that, all jokes aside, really does open up a lot of vacated targets for Anthony Ferkser. And that's a name that I think in August it will get some trendy tags to it once some big name guys in the community start talking about it. But let's get on the train now, today, in early fucking.
Yeah,
March,
if you
man.
do see him out on your waiver wire, you need the tight end help. You might as well take the shot because he's got
dude,
that upside.
I think he has upside in all draft formats, redraft, dynasty, best ball. That would definitely be a guy that I'm going to be looking to attack. Because if you look at it, dude, Ryan Tannehill is a really good fantasy quarterback, and
Yeah.
I think that boosts up AJ Brown. But like, who's the number 2 on that team?
Yeah, no
Like,
one at the moment.
what's that one kid's name? Westbrook Hilaire or whatever. His name is?
I have no
You know
idea what you're talking about.
Damn.
I know they have Khalif Raymond.
Yeah, they have Khalif Raymond too. I was talking about the 4th string, one of their late round draft picks last year, 6'2" wide receiver, pretty nice prototype. Got a couple snaps last year when some guys were in the COVID protocols, picked them up on a couple dynasty teams.
Who's that dude that I'm thinking of that was kind of good for the Titans a few years ago? And then like he left them and like immediately
Don't say Terrell
retired.
Beckham.
Who? No. He was older. I can't remember his name. I wish I could. I
There
don't
hasn't
want.
been any relevant Titan wide receivers. I feel like Delaney Walker.
Yeah, Delaney Walker is the answer for relevant Titan wide receivers in recent years. But
Dude, Delaney Walker is like, remember in redraft in like high school when you would play with your friends in the ESPN leagues, and you would get Delaney Walker on your team in the waivers and be like, hey, we got a free 8 points. Hey, Antonio,
Basically.
those used to be my tight ends every year.
Yeah. Let's move on here. Let's see. I have a few other pieces of news. I'll just run through these ones kind of quick. Emmanuel Sanders signs with Buffalo on a 1-year deal. John Brown, we talked about that, Las Vegas on a 1-year deal. Kind of a Nelson Aguilar replacement there. AJ Green signs with Arizona on a 1-year deal. Okay. I mean, I'm an Emmanuel Sanders manager, and
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this one.
I guess Buffalo is fine. I mean, Josh Allen is a really good fantasy receiver. He can create like opportunities for Emmanuel Sanders. He's going to be the number 2, right? Who would overtake him as the number 2 wide receiver? Gabe Davis? I don't know. I think the veteran status of Emmanuel Sanders would have him over Gabe Davis. So I'm fine with Sanders. It's not exciting, but it's okay. I don't think there's literally like he could have signed with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'd be like, okay, like I'm not excited. It's Emmanuel Sanders, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I didn't really understand that one. Hopefully, one trade I talked about earlier in the show. I've been seeing some rumblings about the Bills getting Ertz. I would really like that trade for Ertz.
That could work.
Dude, that would be such a good trade because, like, there are tight end targets to be had in the Buffalo Bills offense. Is just split between Tyler Kroft and a bunch of other no-name tight ends and stuff like that. But if you put all those numbers in the one person, it would probably be a top 15 tight end.
You know who I was thinking of when I said good Titans wide receiver? Rashard Matthews. That's the man.
Rashard Matthews. Oh yeah, Rob. One tight end that we didn't talk about, Gerald Everett.
We're not there. We're not there quite yet.
Tight ends yet.
We will. Real quick, got one more wide receiver I'd like to shoot at you right here. Nelson Aguilar signing with New England. He's getting paid $13 million a year over the next 2 years.
Chase that money, I guess.
No, it's funny because we literally talked about this last week on the pod when we were going over free agent wide receivers, and you and I both said Nelson Aguilar is the type of guy to chase that money, sign wherever he's getting paid the most, and it'll probably be New England. And here we are. 1 week later, we know exactly what it is. Man,
that's such a, like, I saw some people. All right, so for the New England situation, it helps out Cam to have anybody there.
Right.
But people were acting like Cam was thrown for fucking touchdowns last year. Like, dude, that was like the thing last year. It was like Cam Newton sets Julian Edelman's receiving yard record or whatever, and it's just like, and Cam threw under 10 touchdowns last year. I don't want any Patriots receivers at all. I feel like that's one team that I'm just gonna like X out.
We'll have to see what they do in the draft. That's
Dude,
why I would
that
say.
team
The
is
quarterback
so bad.
I mean, they've added pieces.
Bro, you can't add 3 tight ends.
Kendrick Bourne, can I interest you in any?
Dude, it's just like, I get it. They got to do what they got to do. And it's a better roster that they're going to put out this year than they are last year because half of their fucking defense fucking opted out for COVID. So,
yeah. I mentioned Kendrick Bourne. He signed with New England on a 3-year deal. Rashard Higgins re-signed with Cleveland on a 1-year deal. Keelan Cole, I mentioned. David Moore signed with Carolina on a 2-year deal. Kind of the Curtis Samuel replacement there. Philip Dorsett signed with Jacksonville. I feel like Philip Dorsett also kind of kills the Colin Johnson value. Just because he's fast and he's been in the NFL for a while. So he just knows what he's doing. And then my man, John Ross, on an NFL roster, signed with the New York Giants on a 1-year deal for speed, mainly. Let's finish it out here with the tight ends. You mentioned Jonnu Smith left Tennessee because he signed with New England on a 4-year, $50 million deal, but you can't talk about Jonnu Smith by himself because Hunter Henry also signed with New England on a 3-year, $37 million deal. Man, this... I'm gonna just keep it real. This fucking sucks. Like, I feel bad for anyone who had either one of Jonnu or Henry or both, because what do you do now?
Yeah, dude, that's a bad. I'm cool in that situation because it's like, it's just like the worst.
They're both good players,
because...
and they both could have, like, Jonnu could have went to Indianapolis. Right, and then Hunter Henry could have went to like Cincinnati. Gerald Everett could have went to Buffalo. Like there's so many different landing spots for the tight end position,
and Jared
especially
Cook
this offseason.
Fucking Chargers, like, dude, why are you doing this to me? Why are we gonna have to draft Jared Cook again?
We could have had really good landing spots, but of course the two best tier breaks at tight end both go to the same place. With Cam Newton at quarterback for 2021.
It's just like the all ends of ends because it's like whatever case you make, Cam Newton doesn't throw for touchdowns. And for tight ends to be like even like half irrelevant, like you gotta at least post the 40 in the touchdown. Like,
yeah. It's a shame. Honestly, it's a shame, and I don't think we have to harp on it too much because I think everyone knows that, really. Yeah. You mentioned Jared Cook signing with the Chargers. I actually like this one a little bit. I mean,
it's a bad signing for the team, but good signing for fantasy because it wasn't a situation where Jared Cook, I felt like personally, you asked me this question last week, there wasn't a situation where I felt like he could have returned his value. But, I mean, he returns his value and then some being on the Chargers this year because he can just catch fucking 5 touchdowns and just be Jared Cook again.
Yep, that's all it takes. You mentioned,
and they got him on the cheap too, bro. $6 million for 1 year, bro. It's a good signing for them.
It is a good signing, especially the Hunter Henry replacement. Henry was somewhat involved in the offense.
He was good, but he was never healthy,
and he wasn't super consistent. Like last year he was pretty healthy, I think, for the most part, but there was never, like, if you had locked in Hunter Henry from start to finish, you weren't happy with the result.
Yeah. Up until the Herbert weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, Gronk also re-signed with Tampa Bay, $10 million deal.
To Cameron Brate, man. I had some Cameron Brate shares, but
talk about OJ Howard, man.
OJ Howard is not a thing, bro. Like, I tried to tell my home league commissioner, big OJ Howard guy. And last season he had OJ Howard and Chris Herndon as his tight ends, and I was like, man, that is such that's such a truther. And he had drafted tight end in the startup league until like the 20th round too.
Yeah,
and he was like, man, OJ Howard's gonna hit, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, man, OJ Howard's just like, he's just not it, man. You know, I was out on the OJ Howard bandwagon a while ago.
Yeah, I guess we got.
And almost got wheeled the fuck back in this season, and I was like, I still rather play Cameron Brate.
You might as well.
Yeah, no, bro. All jokes aside, bro, I really got some decent weeks out of Cameron Brate.
I know, yeah.
Zach Ertz was injured. Him and Richard Rodgers, man, patched up a lot of my tight ends on my teams.
Speaking of tight ends, like I said, you mentioned Gerald Everett signing with Seattle. He also got a 1-year, $6 million deal.
Move, That's a good fucking move for him, dude. That brings up his fantasy value a lot because if he would have came back to the Rams, there's a guy on that team that got drafted there last year. I think his name is Bryce Perkins. That's a tight end
I think he's on Rams, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Rams. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's why I was kind of scared about Gerald Everett. But, man, you put him in the Seattle offense, man. Definitely anybody that's tied to Russell Wilson has upside.
He definitely does. I picked up Gerald Everett in any league where he was on the free agent wire because, you know, he's a free agent. If he signs in a situation, like there was a real situation where Gerald Everett signed somewhere and he became a very viable tight end for next season. So I thought, why not take the shot? But I'm kind of left wanting a little more than Seattle, honestly, because
where was he gonna go? Where like
Buffalo could have been one of those situations where I would
Buffalo, bro. Buffalo's not about to spend money on Gerald Everett.
I mean, he's only $6 million, though. It's really not that much.
It's a lot to spend at a position that you can draft somebody to block. Like, I don't think Gerald Everett, you're not drafting and you're not bringing over Gerald Everett and revamping the whole entire position.
Yeah. Indianapolis, too, another one that really uses the tight end. Even Cincinnati, I think I would have felt a little better with because Cincinnati.
There's some good tight ends in this upcoming draft class, though. I feel like a lot of teams are kind of really addressing that in the free agency this year and aren't signing these dusty guys.
But I mean, like you said, he has upside because he's with Russell Wilson. So there's that, and I think he's pretty much the clear-cut number 3 target. Like, obviously DK and Tyler Lockett, but then
I wouldn't say that. David Moore is definitely number 3 on that team.
He signed with Carolina, so he's out. Yeah.
Who's the receiver depth chart for the Seattle, real quick, before we move on?
Yeah, I'll pull that up real quick. But I mean, I think the big thing for like competition for Everett would be Will Disley, but Will Disley, I mean, he's had his fair share of injuries, and it just seems like he's not necessarily the same.
Will Disley's a better blocking tight end than he is a receiving tight end when it comes to like the scheme of things.
The next wide receiver on the Seahawks depth chart is Freddie Swain. And then after Freddie Swain is Penny Hart, John Ursua, Cody Thompson, Aaron Fuller, Darvin Kidsey.
You're right, bro. There's going to be – I'll tell you right now, though. There's going to be some unknown name receiver from the Seattle Seahawks.
It'll probably be Freddie Swain.
Bro, I don't think it's going to be Freddie. I feel like Freddie Swain's the type of guy that we look at on the depth chart on paper, and he looks like the 3rd on the team. But once we get in the training camp, whoever the fuck they draft or sign undrafted, there's going to be some Reddit report about a Seattle Seahawks wide receiver. I can see it on the writing on the wall now.
It could happen. He looked pretty good in spots last season.
I feel like Seattle's the land of the deep sleepers for wide receivers position.
Definitely.
Like we always get that Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett undrafted guy or a DK Metcalf draft pick, and like they always end up popping because they're playing with Russell Wilson. Like I said earlier, man, anybody that gets tied with Russell Wilson, I got interest.
Right.
Especially this upcoming Seattle team. I think they'll end up airing out the ball a little bit more.
I hope.
Hashtag
they need it. They need to. They probably. I just feel like they won't. That's Pete
They
Carroll
they
saying
they
won't.
think that they won't, but I'll tell you right now, their defense has no other choice besides to.
They
Their
lost
defense is
Shaquille
not good.
Griffin, their top
Yeah, their
corner.
defense is not good at all.
Yeah. The final tight end piece of news would be Kyle Rudolph signing with the New York Giants on a 2-year, $16 million deal. Number one, get that money, Kyle Rudolph. And number two, I don't have any interest in Kyle Rudolph, I guess. Because
Yeah,
it's kind of...
this one I got the trade. You know when you get some of them.
Wait. All right, wait. I got to ask a question. Do you think Kyle Rudolph will be on the field more than Evan Ingram because Evan Ingram is such a bad blocker and Kyle Rudolph is actually a pretty good blocker?
I don't think it would be noticeable.
Interesting.
One of those situations where like a tight end, like for example, like Mike Gesicki, he isn't really on the field all the time, but the times that we see him on the field are like the passing situations. I think it'll be one of those things. I think they'll just be more cautious of lining up Evan Ingram. But I think Evan Ingram end up playing a little bit more on the outside too, because it's not like they're like I don't see where the Giants, unless they spend a first-round draft pick or a second-round draft pick on a receiver.
Kenny Galladay.
I just don't see them getting somebody where I feel like Evan Ingram could fuck around and just play on the outside.
He should. He honestly could.
But you can't trust the Giants to make smart decisions.
And that's all the news that we have for free agency so far. But I did want to mention offensive line winners and losers to this point because, like I said, it does matter for fantasy, especially for running games or for passing games for quarterbacks. Number one, to me, the biggest winner so far is the San Francisco 49ers. I mentioned that they re-signed Kyle Juszczyk, but they also re-signed Trent Williams, who, like, even though Trent Williams is 33, he was still, like, the second best free agent in all of football on a lot of people's boards because he's so good still as a left tackle and such a good left tackle. Like, it makes such a difference on your offensive line. So that, plus they added Alex Mack, Falcons center, who has been really great for his entire career. So it's going to be really good running the football again in San Francisco. Los Angeles Chargers, they signed Corey Linsley, who was an all-pro center last year, so that's a big help. They were dealing with the retirement of Marquise Pouncey, or was it Marquise? I get confused which Pouncey brothers where, honestly. But one of the Pouncey brothers was in Los Angeles and retired. So replacing him with Corey Linsley, I think that's a big help. Baltimore Ravens, who signed Kevin Zeitler, who was released by the New York Giants as a cap hit, cap casualty, I should say. But yeah, he's a help. He's definitely a help to their offensive line. At the moment, they have not yet traded Orlando Brown. They'll probably not be a winner necessarily once they do that because he is a really good right tackle. He wants to play left tackle somewhere, so we'll have to see how that works. And then finally, the Arizona Cardinals are a big winner as well. They traded for Rodney Hudson, who is a very good center from the Las Vegas Raiders. And one of the big things that's an issue with the Arizona Cardinals is their interior offensive line play. So Rodney Hudson definitely will help that. As far as big losers, I mentioned Las Vegas. I said they lost 3.5 starters from their line because technically they re-signed one of the guys who started 14 games for them last season, but I believe he only started 14 games because Richie Incognito was hurt for a lot of the year, and if Richie Incognito was playing, he would have been the starter. Their release of so they let go. Well, they traded Trent Brown, they traded Rodney Hudson, they let go Richie Incognito, and they also let go right guard Gabe Jackson. So some hits on the Raiders' offensive line. It's another negative there for Josh Jacobs. And then finally, the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they're re-signing Mike Remmers, who started a lot at right tackle for them last year, and they did sign Joe Thuney, and they also signed some other guard. Kyle Long was another name, but they cut Eric Fisher. They also cut Mitchell Schwartz, who are both really good tackles in football, and I think that's going to be a big hit on their offensive line. Bill, this was fun. I like free agency, and we still have some big names out there. Like I mentioned, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kenny Galladay still have not signed, so odds are we very likely
to get the season started, man. I mean, not started, but this is the first half of the where you can kind of start drawing some fantasy projections and stuff. Next is just getting through the combines and stuff like that. It's kind of different this year. We're just looking at senior day and pro days and stuff like that.
Let's talk about how many 40-yard dashes are being run under like 4.28. Like everyone is like Usain Bolt.
Athletic draft class, man. Wide receivers and running backs. There's going to be a lot of day 2, day 3 guys that like you know how like last year it was like watch the draft day 2, day 3. There's probably going to be some guys in fantasy that you're going to be looking at. It's the same exact thing this year. I feel like last year, I'm trying to think of who was the guy. Brian Edwards is like one of those type of guys. I remember him on day 2, day 3 when he got drafted to the Raiders. I was like, let's fucking go. Like, I feel like it's gonna be like one of those type of years this year, where like you're gonna see like the Packers on like day 3 draft like a 5th, 6th round.
Well, they got to do something, man.
Yeah, dude. There's gonna be like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's gonna be some guys out there, and when we start looking them up, we're gonna be like, all right, man, there's some pretty good rookie draft. So if you're out there, man, don't trade away those 4th and 3rd round rookie draft picks. Try to acquire them.
Well, good advice. Good take. Yeah, for next week, we're gonna have a review of hopefully the rest of the big name free agents. Like I said, Kenny Galladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chris Carson's still out there as well. Anyone else who can make an impact on a team, on a fantasy roster, we'll talk about next week. We'll also talk about free agency winners and losers. And then we'll turn from there to draft season, as we will look at needs for teams heading into the draft and best landing spots for rookie prospects heading into the draft, followed by our draft breakdown. It's coming up soon, Bill. We got running backs, then we got wide receivers, then we'll do in one episode quarterbacks and tight ends. And I believe from there
for that one, man, we're gonna have to do something special.
I believe then we have one more episode, which would be a mock rookie draft before the NFL draft. Yeah, it's going to be a fun next few months leading up to and then we'll have basically everything done before the NFL season actually begins, and we can really get into projections, debates, and everything.
Yeah, I can't wait for those times because, right now I play that NBA DFS stuff and all that, and always doing sports betting and all that, but I'm not really too big on MLB. So that's really when you start getting the nuggets that you should write down. That's, in the spring and summer, you're gonna have to get a pen and paper for when you watch these episodes, because we're gonna be having some good hot takes, some good guests. I feel like everybody that we had a guest on last year has all upgraded their games, just guest wise. Like I remember the what's the one dude's name? Laquan.
Yeah. Real Deal Fantasy on Twitter.
Yeah, Real Deal Fantasy. Dude, I saw he had Mike Holloway on. And then I remember the one dude that we had on that's a Tampa Bay fan. I saw he had a couple good guests on. So I can't wait for the conversations that we're going to have over the summer when we tune back into our guests. Because one thing that I feel like we really provide is just just the deep depths of good Twitter follows, like people that have good takes and also are good follows. Like I feel like the guests that we had on last season, if you follow them throughout the all season and stuff like that, you got really good content from them from week to week, and then we're gonna have some more guests because as we start building on bigger and bigger, we'll start having more and more guests. And I think the guest list for this off season is going to be real fun because it's always nice to tune in to like other people's takes and like combine different takes because you know me for so long that I see a signing or something like that, and you kind of have an idea of what kind of defense I'm going to be on before the signing happens. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Love it. Big thing about fantasy, getting all those different opinions. So it's definitely something to enjoy. Hope you all enjoyed this episode, man. Follow Billy on Twitter at Getting Bills. Follow me on Twitter at FantasyForceFB. Follow the show at Dynasty Force Pod. Check us out on YouTube to see our beautiful faces, Dynasty Force Podcast. And man, we'll catch you next week when we'll have some more news to break down, and we'll have some fun topics back on normal schedule next week, Wednesday, 4:30 on Twitter and YouTube. So be sure to check us out. Hope you all enjoy your upcoming week, and hope your fantasy roster wasn't too destroyed by this free agency period.
Real quiet free agency in reality, in my personal opinion. Like, there's nothing that like really I felt like made tremendous impact to like my rosters at all.
Hopefully, you weren't an owner of Josh Jacobs, Jonnu Smith, and Hunter Henry all on the same team, because that would have been the pain that you felt. Yeah, man. We'll be back next week, so we'll catch you then, and we'll miss you over here at Dynasty Force Pod. Until then, thanks again for tuning in, and enjoy your night, enjoy your week, and enjoy your time. Thank you.